In this video, we are going to look at how LSU and the University of South Carolina match up and compare their off seasons and how this will impact them when they meet up during the 2023-24 season. Now, the good news is for fans is that LSU cannot duck the Gamecocks. Hell, they might even play them 3 times this upcoming season, depending on how things pan out. Relax, LSU fans, just a gentle little shot. You can't take shots at South Carolina because they also play in the SEC and don't have a cupcake non-conference. But anyway, let's get into this video. There is no doubt that Kim Mulkey has turned things around for the Tigers. Mulkey winning a championship in her second year is way ahead of schedule, but in her short tenure at LSU, she has not been able to beat the South Carolina Gamecocks. Will this be the year that it will happen? If you look at the championship odds, Las Vegas clearly thinks LSU has a stronger team this year, as LSU is favorite to win the championship this season, as they are paying plus 350 versus South Carolina that is plus 1100. Now, this is based on big losses for South Carolina, as Aaliyah Boston, Zaya Cook, Latricia Amir, and Victoria Saxton are gone. But remember, LSU had massive losses as well, with Alexis Morris, LaDasia Williams, Jasmine Carson, all gone as well. Now, both teams had pickups in recruiting through the portal, with LSU winning the offseason with the #1 recruiting class and portal class, which was highlighted with the signings of Aneesah Morrow and HVL, hence why they are plus 350. But has LSU really gotten that much better than South Carolina? I wonder if all the love this year for LSU and them being the plus 350 favorite is based on last year's NCAA tournament and what each team did and did not do. Imagine if we could go in the time machine DeLorean and paint a different outcome for last season. Let's say Utah could have grabbed a loose ball rebound, or what if Jenna Johnson, the 75% free throw shooter, would have been able to hit her 2 free throws to win the game and knock LSU out. As well, what if South Carolina would not have melted down against Iowa? What if Staley had used an early timeout, not allowing Iowa to get away and putting them in chase mode for the entirety of the game? What if Aaliyah Boston could have stayed out of foul trouble as well? Would LSU still be plus 350 and South Carolina plus 1100 to win the championship? I think not. I think LSU would have been number 2 or 3, and the question would have been, can Mulkey and the Tigers put it all together? For South Carolina, it would have been the UConn of the South is reloading. Yes, LSU fans, relax. I know, you want it. I'm not taking away from you. If and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So I'm not saying that. LSU won, and all teams need the breaks to win the championship. However, I do think that LSU owes a bit of gratitude and thanks to Iowa for knocking out South Carolina, as South Carolina would have been a much tougher matchup for them versus Iowa. And going into this season, I think once again South Carolina will match up very, very well against LSU, and here's why. First, the big news for LSU was they got HVL, which in truth filled a major hole as Alexis Morris had graduated. Morris was the glue that held LSU together last season. It was on full display during the second half of the championship game versus Iowa, as she dominated with her mid-range game and got LSU baskets whenever they needed them. If we were looking at this with a Moneyball approach, HVL is not really an upgrade on Morris. HVL scores slightly more, averaging 19.7 points a game versus Morris, who averages 15.4 points a game. But Morris is a more efficient player with better numbers and assists, less turnovers, and a better shooting percentage from the floor and three-point range. But overall, this really does not change LSU's team from last season or really improve it that much. The other rockstar signing from the portal is Aneesah Morrow. But with her, the question is, where does she fit in with LSU? As to me, she seems like a smaller version of Reese. Morrow's freshman year at DePaul, she was a beast and very efficient. Look at the numbers. Her second year, her efficiency went down. Granted, she was on a bad team, but she tried to expand her game, and it did not work, taking 209 three-point attempts, but only hitting on 25% of them. You would hope that she would return to the efficient Morrow from her freshman year, and this is likely to happen as she will be on a better team. But the question is, will she and Reese complement each other? I imagine if they don't, then they will simply stagger their minutes, which will be fine. But overall, is this an addition I'm excited about if I was an LSU fan? Or would you prefer going Reese at 5, Samaya Smith at 4, and breaking in Michaela Williams, or going with Falage at the 3, and Aaliyah Del Rosario backing up Reese at the 5? Overall, I think it breaks down to the eternal question of, can you have too much talent? Now, to be clear, I'm not saying anybody will be unhappy or pout on LSU, but I do think going into the tournament, you are seeking to get a 7 or 8 player rotation and have built continuity throughout the year. An abundance of talents will likely limit the minutes of freshmen Del Rosario and Williams. Now, funny enough, South Carolina might have suffered this fate last season as they were too loaded with talent. I wonder if they would have been better off with less talent last season, as I would argue they had less chemistry due to limited minutes for all their good players. So yes, they suffered losses, with the key ones being Boston and Cook, but in some ways I wonder if less might be more. As well, they did not have the exciting pickups in the portal, but their pickups might have been perfect in replacing what they lost and what they need to allow them to almost be good as last year and continue to match up well against LSU. First, with Cook gone, it gives more minutes to Raven Johnson to run the show at point. Now, she got the cold-blooded wave-off from Clark in the Final Four, but her shot mechanics are okay. She seems to be more comfortable shooting the ball off the dribble, so I think she will flourish with increased playing time and being the primary ball handler. Bree Hall will get more minutes at off guard, and I really don't think she will be much of a drop-off from Bree Beal. I know Beal was heralded as a defender, but I think Hall is just as good as she is very quick. As well, going into the guard mix would be Tahina Paopao, who averaged 13 points a game at Oregon and transferred via the portal. Importantly, she can shoot and spread the floor as she shot 42% from 3. Also added to the guard mix is Melissa Fuwile, who is also a point guard with a ridiculous handle and can shoot. She was the number 13 rated recruit and is a 5'6" pocket rocket who makes behind-the-back passes with flair and shoots rainbow threes. So one way or another, Carolina should be covered in the backcourt, which should allow them to hold up against HVL, Poole, and Poa. Now let's move to the front court, where South Carolina should be able to hold their own as well. Cardoso's numbers will increase, obviously, as she gets increased minutes. As well, the signing of Sakima Walker in the portal, if it works out. Now, she washed out at Rutgers, but refound her love of the game playing JUCO. If this works out, it would allow South Carolina to go double bigs again. If you remember, Reese did not have a good game last season against LSU, and it was clear Boston's length caused her problems. South Carolina gave her the mid-range jumper from the free throw line repeatedly, and she would not take it. So Boston would just wait for her to drive and then would use her length to cause her to put up wild shots. She went 5 from 15 from the floor and was only able to grab 4 rebounds. So I would not be surprised if they go big again with Cardoso, who's 6'7", and then Walker 6'5", and daring Reese, Morrow, and Smith to shoot from outside. As well, they have other options up front, as they can choose between Ashlyn Watkins and Sanaya Fagan to choose a 4 out of those two. In addition, at the 3, Chloe Kitts seems to be a natural fit there, and she's 6'2" as well, so they will be big in the front court. So my gut is that it will be ultimately determined by how Reese goes. If she has developed a mid-range game, she will just be unbelievably devastating. As last season, teams knew she wasn't going to shoot, and she was still able to get to the basket. And this was due in some part as she would sort of get a running start at players, and then she has the unique ability she can sort of spin left or right and sort of snake her way through to get a shot. But if she's able to pull South Carolina bigs out to the free throw line as they're worried about her jump shot, then she'll just be able to drive right past them and get them in foul trouble. It should be interesting to watch. Leave your comments below. Tell me who you think will win next season when these two match up. Your poison is welcome. Good night.